Yo, yo. Chris, are you freaking, can you believe it's December? Like this is product lab number 12. Like I have no
Yeah,
idea where the light where the month went or the year went, but my
yeah,
goodness.
yeah. Totally crazy. I don't know. It goes by quick, man.
All right, looks like we got the audience flowing on in. Obviously, we appreciate with you. If you've never been here with Product Lab with us, I guess my biggest question is you're clearly missing out. Where have you been? But
Yeah.
more importantly, I just got a chance to take a look back at what 12 months of feedback. We've got more upvotes, more commentary on what product features we want, prioritization help. And to be very frank, we've shipped more this year than we've kind of like, I look back at 25 and it looks like we will ship almost twice as much as what we've shipped in 24. So pumped that everybody's here. Also seeing people noticing the Lando cap. I'm an anybody but Verstappen a little bit. So
Ooh,
I
ooh.
know Verstappen's
Hot
great. He's
takes. Hot
amazing, but
takes.
just anybody but Verstappen. Let's get somebody else in there. All right, Monterey. I'm in, Chris. I'm in. You're at home, aren't you? You're just in Maryland today.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man, we got some Poland in here. What's going on, Greg? All
Poland?
kind, yeah,
Where'd
Poland
you see
hanging with
that?
us. Northern Minnesota,
Oh,
freezing,
wow.
Sam. I hope you can come join me
Hmm.
here in Florida if you want. Um, just wild. So glad to see everybody. Bermuda.
Bermuda? That's
Carlos knows where
unfair.
it's at. He's the only smart one in here in Bermuda.
This is
Um,
unfair.
gosh, I didn't even check today. It's 67 still in Florida, so it's still pretty okay. Oh, did is that was not made up, but okay, we're not going there. With that said, we got a pretty good episode for December. To be very frank, Chris, I think we got a little too much in the straight out of the lab, so we should feel free to
Yeah.
skip as needed. But I will say our four kind of like sections or segments that we have set up today, a lot of places in feedback that we kind of need guidance. We've also got some really cool R&D we want to share with you of, to be very frank, I'm questionable if this R&D will ever see the light of day, but it's fun. So it's
Yeah.
very
Right.
fun. So without further ado, Chris, I'm gonna just go ahead and run through like agenda wise. Yeah, of course. We'll talk about all the stuff we've released. We're gonna go faster because it's really quick or easy to get caught up in the what we've released. And this is not the what we've released show. This is what we are currently building or need your help building or want to show off something really like epic fail or really cool success. So we're going to go into like I'm going to be owning the R&D section, Chris, for the Mac OS Info Stealers. This one's pretty fun. If you could do me a solid, since you're working with the team for Insight Agent, we've been telling people that we were going to make an acquisition. We did make an acquisition. Chris is going to be helping rebuild a lot of this technology. So I think that's a good one for you, dude. And then I'll take the human risk management if you're cool with taking your question about like email security, proof point, all that good stuff.
Yep.
Is that a
Yep.
good
Let's
plan?
do it.
All
Yep.
right. Reminder,
Love
you
it.
make it all the way to the end. We've always got some sort of prizes. Chris, do you know we're doing anything in a year? We got like any chance we've got those Yetis back? That would be cool to give away some of those if we still have them.
I think the last time I was in the office, I think I saw them. I think they are there.
Okay. Like always, these thing is just live. It's BSing. We're not here to be formal. We're here to be honest, just chill, hear what you guys are running into. And most importantly, if you got questions, they don't have to be on the topics. Like we really can ebb and flow wherever we want. It's our show. So, Chris, without further ado, this was an easy one for me. I was surprised how many people were asking. I didn't realize Microsoft makes so many of like the larger partners in the MSP world, as well as like some of the bigger, like direct, small enterprise businesses sign a contract that says you must spend this much with us in a year. So for everybody who is asking on that side of the house, like we are on the Microsoft Marketplace. I don't know how this works exactly for billing, but I know it was a substantial ask specifically from a lot of like the people that have in-house IT and security. Um, so we're there. We're excited. All four products technically can be there. So if this helps you
Yep.
streamline your billing, I think we're trying to be able to help you with your max. I think that's what that's called, right, Chris? The contract.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Cool, cool. Other stuff on this. I don't know if you saw this, Chris, but no joke. Feedback when I was going through all of what we had shipped, we don't have a way to differentiate product lab versus non-product lab feedback. And to be honest, that's kind of a little egregious. I don't think we need to. But when I took a look at the amount of upvotes, we are higher than we've ever been before. As I mentioned, we ship more than we ever have. And like you all, like no joke, your feedback has paid off. Like this isn't like a silly little cute thing for us. We landed a product of the year award, at least one or two of them from CRN on the innovation side. So like
Yep.
I appreciate it because it makes obviously like Huntress look good, but you guys know like a lot of our feedback comes from the community with us sprinkling in things that we see from just the bigger scale. So I found this a pretty cool like celebratory award here on that end. Yeah, thanks, Kevin, man. I think well earned for both, both sides, the team at Huntress and the community. This is a pretty cool one for me. Chris, I don't know what this one was. Did you see this? I know incident reports are trying to level up.
Yes.
Give me a rundown here of what happened because I saw the upvotes on this and it looked like people wanted, like, as an incident report evolves, they wanted, like, maybe change log. How is this happening? What's going on here?
Yeah, so the idea is sometimes we get a signal, like we'll identify something that's potentially malicious. And we want to send out the report because maybe like it has some bad stuff and you need to lock out user accounts or whatever. But we also need to do additional investigation. And the way this kind of worked in the past was we would hold on the report, do the investigation, and then send it. But if that investigation, we got to go look at like, SIM, we got to go pull some files from the host, we got to do some stuff. That could be 15, 20 minutes later because a human was actually looking at it. And so before we would hold the report until we had all that, then they would send it. And then people would say, why didn't you send this to me before? So what we're getting to is more of like a, hey, we found something. Here's like the preliminary. We're still investigating. You notice it says preliminary report under investigation, and then we'll continue to do our investigation, and then we'll send a follow-up report that shows you, hey, here's what kind of changed. This is what we saw. This is what we actually determined. So it makes it a little bit easier to get some of that stuff out faster, and kind of relieves some burden off the SOC where they felt like, oh my gosh, we have to send this like immediately, but we haven't done the real work yet.
I'm always crushed when people say they got reports from us. I mean, obviously, that's a sign that we're doing our job. It's even better when people don't get reports from us. But I appreciate just the live feedback. Both Kevin and Edward giving us a feedback of like, hey, this is useful. I knew that the team made a lot of edits. Oftentimes, we have our own like analyst notebook that the SOC keeps track. I didn't realize that those weren't being fully bubbled up. So I'm actually pretty excited to see this is now into the actual incident report. So huge thanks. And if any of you got like, again, Chris and I talked to directly to the PMs who own the roadmap. So please, like, if you like these things or don't like them, let us know. Live reports, exactly, Chris. This is pretty neat. And I'm glad it's 2025. So it makes sense we have these. I heard, Chris, by the way, flashbangs are almost completely gone. If anybody remembers what happened when we first started turning on, we were doing like one page at a time. So you'd be in dark mode, dark mode, dark mode, and then all of a sudden you'd just get flashbanged by a white page.
Yeah,
I've heard
yeah,
they're pretty much done. I don't know how this took us, again, 10 years. I get, again, wrecking hackers back in the day, if anybody's been with us that long, you remember like we used to not even actually take action on your behalf. And then we started doing the assisted remediations that only you could opt into. Then we started isolating. So I guess there was more things that were needed instead of dark mode, but we got there, I guess. 60% of
yeah.
the time we worked
Yeah,
our
I
way
mean
back.
it
I
took
don't know.
extra time because we kind of combined two things, which was like redoing all of the dashboard and redoing all like the components and stuff and adding dark mode. So it wasn't as simple as like take what you have and make it, support dark mode. It was like redo the whole interface. So that took a while.
Yeah, I'm glad to see it. I tried it the other day. If you're not tracking, it's the little bright flashbang sun icon. We're had a little bit of fun there with with what we're doing. Um, Also, a lot of folks have asked us of like, hey, what's the future of this agentic side of the house? I'll tell you from like our strategy, we want to make sure that we have as many internal write APIs as possible. It's a slow maturing that we've done. We had multiple different things that we've, kind of cobbled together over the years. So what we're excited to share is like write APIs are showing up more often. These are things that you can actually not only take and approve your rejections and want to be able to, of course, add users, subtract users, things just for management. But a lot of what we're doing, while we haven't seen the agentic world fully take off in the, IT department, whether it's again MSP life or direct side of the house that you're trying to like manage your own security side, we do think it's going to come. We've obviously seen the OpenAI investment in Thrive this week. That is a fairly well-known MSP or a holding of multiple MSPs. And so we're doing some preparation. So just giving you a heads up, this is some of the many right APIs. We probably won't cover them in every single product lab, but if you're into that, if you have a team of actual devs who could leverage it, we're trying to make these better at scale. And then you can imagine it doesn't take much to be able to put, you know, client server interface in front of this to be able to go say, hey, look, we'll allow some direct agent to agent where it makes sense as we slow grow. Anything, Chris, you want to add on that? I mean, this is again, it's not very sexy to say you're putting plumbing together. Like nobody wants to talk about
Yeah,
copper
yeah.
piping.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of held off on the right APIs for a long time. There were only a few people who really, were going to make use of them, but we've seen increased requests for this over time as just people have matured in their, workflows, and a lot of people now have their own internal tooling and internal developers, or at least, scripts and stuff. So we're starting to make more of these accessible, and we're not done. We'll continue to add more things that you can update, change, or trigger through the API.
So again, more coming, team. User-based API keys. That's something, if anybody doesn't remember, this is getting better to that like attribution. We don't want just when you have your total company-wide API key, now you can't attribute to which tech did what, especially in the world where more info stealers are stealing API keys. That's a little bit of a look ahead. So just
Yeah.
sharing, of course, the MCP server. I've already kind of alluded to that. Anybody's not tracking. MCP is a fairly common way for doing agentic interactions back and forth. So again, it's coming. It's coming in the next handful of quarters, and of course, webhooks. That's something that we've kind of been trying to expose more and more of that to you, so you can do less individual polling of like, can I do this? Can I do this? Can I do this? And then more of us say, hey, look, you're ready. You can do this. Chris, I don't know how fast there was so many SAT updates. I think I'm ready to
Yeah.
just like click through more
Yeah.
episodes. The team is not stopping. The animation team is getting really aggressive. And what's cool is we're actually jumping to, I would call it more modern tradecraft that not only is it helping users prepare, that's great, that's obvious, but we're starting to look more about like more dynamic, more contextual, not just episodes, but interventions. When can we say it hit the fan? Let's interrupt you here. Or when we see somebody that got pwned on your identity here, how can we make sure that we have the trainings and stuff that are relevant to be both prevent it from happening and worst case scenario, not making somebody feel like a piece of crap, but just trying to educate them on like, this is how it doesn't happen again. So I don't know, Chris, did you see all these? The animation
Yeah.
team is
No. Yeah,
going
they're great.
insane. So if you
They're
guys don't
great.
know, we have an animation. I appreciate those of you. It's been a little while since we had, Thanksgiving and stuff got in the way here in the US, but we saw some Halloween costumes of Dee Dee and some of the characters of Curricula. I didn't realize these were this popular. I did not realize people got that cosplay, but we've got baby Dee Dee because 5-year-old was not old enough to get pwned. It turns out if anybody's got terrible twos, we got you. Uh,
Yeah.
Oh gosh, keeping it up. We're considering storybooks. I don't literally mean storybooks, but it's part of the episode. So, C++
Actually, I don't hate the
for
idea.
babies. Chris,
That'd be
that's
kind of
it.
cool swag.
Yeah, could we turn these real? Maybe that would be a good like product lab giveaway. Do some limited creations of these. We'll have to ask.
Yeah.
Anyways, it's nonsense. So more new characters, more new episodes, things along those lines. And for those of you who don't know, yeah, Chris, you asked a question. We actually do support SCORM behind the scenes for some of these. Some of our like think of like small enterprise customers that actually are like a holding company of many 1,000 employee companies. They tend to have more mature technology that requires like their LMS is SCORM only. So yeah, there is SCORM support. I don't know how, I don't know if it's as good of the whole platform, but I do know it's pretty damn legit. So like go hassle the team and see what they can
Yeah.
do. I think if you're a customer, they'll probably
Yeah.
give it to you. I don't, do they charge more, Chris? I don't think they do.
I don't think so. I don't think so. We got rid of that. I think previously when it was still curricula they did, but I think we got rid of that. We do have a handful of customers who have their own like LMS, or they buy another one, and they actually buy our training and use SCORM to import it. So
Chris,
it
did you
does
see what
work.
Pierre just wrote? Pierre just said, "Yo, are we working on the mobile agent? We were talking about whether to include an update on this today, but we had so little
Uh,
time. So not only are we, it's starting out, Chris, is it iOS first or it's iOS and Android based on the framework that we're doing? It's just
we can't even see
we
it. I
can't
can't
see
even
your
see
green
it.
screen or your
I'm holding, you can't see it, but I'm holding here a MacBook that is closed, and that's why we don't have that's why we don't have a mobile app yet because I just haven't gotten back to it. So
gosh, terrible.
it's coming. I'm
It
working
is
on it, I
coming.
swear. I'm just busy.
I that's no excuse. You're getting ready for holiday. So, team, there's a lot more. I'm gonna go faster. There's Gmail buttons available. This was a huge upvote. I didn't know that we didn't have this here, but Gmail fish reporting button, super easy, both on desktop and on mobile. Pretty cool. We use it internally. Um, General manager view. These are things that you guys have been asking, just the right amount. So not being super geeky, but getting the right amount of info of like who's doing it, who's not doing it, who's unfinished. We're trying to help you more and more with this type of stuff.
Yeah.
I looked at this, Chris, and was like, I don't even know whether to include this. This obviously came from the sim PM side. The point we're getting at is
So
there is
much
a
stuff.
lot of stuff on the sim coming, and a lot of it is simultaneously being worked on. Just how the dates fell, we couldn't show
Yeah.
everything, so we figured we would tease. We have a lot of your logs that you've asked for, and a lot of the ingestion is pretty straightforward and simple. But remember, like the detection that comes with these takes us a little bit longer. So, yep, we've got you taken care of. We've got more correlation now of VPN brute forcing since, again, every day, all day, we see VPNs getting pwned, both attempted and success. Chris, did you have
Yeah.
anything you wanted to share? I mean, this is pretty straightforward. The team can go in
Yeah.
there, but we got better fish
Yeah.
to fry than what.
Yeah. If you have a data source and we don't have it, let us know. We'll add it to the
Um,
list.
Thing that I like, easy queries. We've had you all have shared some of this stuff. We'll still have the super elite ESQL. I prefer ESQL. Geeks do. You could imagine more of the building becomes more of the if this, then that. Of course, we're playing with like LLM abstractions for queries, but it's about crawl, walk, and run. And we want to know what queries people are doing to put our focus on. Prioritization is a lot of like, we now have a fairly large engineering team, many individual teams, and figuring out what stuff to do first isn't easy. So if you have folks that are actually querying your sim and you're like occasionally looking backwards, maybe, I don't know, your ISP contacted you and we said, we found your data, I don't know, 150 days ago somewhere. This should be able to help you get more insight into looking backwards. The queries are pretty straightforward, but I would really love, that was one of the things that was asked of help. So coming this month, find what you want, fast and easy. That's the pitch.
Yep.
Chris, you want to share on this one? I didn't even fully understand what this one was, or do we want to keep moving? This is just people that ask for their agents. It's kind of boring. You can allow your
Yeah,
agents to
yeah.
go into standby.
The TLDR is we've had for a long time functionality in there that if an agent hasn't checked in some amount of time, and you can configure it 7 days, 14 days, whatever, we will assume that it is gone, like the machine has been, re-imaged, and we'll delete it. There are some people who have agents that come on very sporadically, it could be seasonally, whatever it happens to be. This allows you to put them in there so that even if they haven't called back in a while, we won't delete them. So if that applies to you,
I mean,
there's
how
this.
often, Chris, even at Huntress, we have stuff that we bench, we prepare for new employees, new teammates, but they go into the closet. Why pay for them? So I
Yeah.
think that's, it's smart. I'm glad we're doing this and not nickel and diming people. So it's pretty cool. And other things, Chris, you want to walk through again? We're right at the 18-minute mark, so we probably
Yeah.
got 2
Yeah.
minutes to make it through the big
Yep.
four R&D sections.
So we talked about this before. If you want to give me a click, I think there's more to like build out on this slide.
Okay, I'm clicking. Sorry, I was
Clicky
typing at the
click.
same time.
There we go. Okay. So the idea, and we talked about this before, of like, hey, if we see malicious activity, like a compromised user account, and the machines are within a domain, and there's a Huntress agent on the domain controller, we can actually lock that account out on the domain controller and prevent the attacker from, reaching into other machines that may be available over RDP or, getting to them from different places. And this worked great so long as you had an Active Directory and a domain setup. But if you didn't, it didn't work. So if you want to jump to the next slide here, we will talk about what's coming soon is the same ability, but for local users. So a lot of our partners they serve small customers, or maybe you're a small customer yourself and you don't actually have a domain and a domain controller because it's just more effort than you really needed. We'll now be able to identify those local users on machines where the Huntress agent is installed and lock those accounts until such a time as you reset the passwords or whatever. That way, it benefits that as well. So
I was looking,
there
Chris,
you
at like
go.
a DFIR report. If anybody hasn't seen their resources, DFIR report takes a lot of big incidents and does the full digital forensics and incident response breakdown. And the amount of times that we looked at both our data and external data, like what I'm referencing, that we saw, for instance, oh, we thought we blocked, but the local accounts weren't stopped, etc. It's a shocking amount of like I personally, like, especially in the offensive side, it's been several years since I really got down and dirty and did that at scale. But
Yep.
I'm shocked that how many people will still default over to the local admin account, despite all the settings that are meant to make local admin lateral movement really hard. So
Yeah.
kudos EDR team for getting this out the door,
Yeah.
especially, I don't know, Chris, if you saw this, this feature is even less for like our, partners and our customers. It's more for the SOC to be able to go in there when they're rapidly responding and trying to like contain an incident. Maybe a new laptop got brought in and it starts
Yep.
spreading or something like that. It's really meant a big part for the SOC to help them do isolation. So this is pretty slick on the
Yeah.
surgical response side. So
Yeah, a couple people asked how this applies to like cloud join PCs, but basically Entra, like hybrid environments. There's a lot of people who are migrating or have decided they're going to stay fully hybrid. We've had the ability to kind of lock out some of those things for like Microsoft 365 and local stuff. I don't know what the current state of us handling a hybrid is. I know there were like some side effects there and some interesting things that needed to be worked around. So that might be the next step. I'm not sure. Somebody on the team here, like who's in chat, probably knows. So if somebody does jump in and let us know.
nice. Dude, I find myself typing and responding to questions, forgetting the PMs that actually own these products are in the chat. So really
Yeah,
appreciate you guys
yeah,
asking the good questions. We haven't had anybody use the formal Q&A feature yet, Chris. So I'm going to keep going, by the way. We listened. There was a lot of folks that were looking, for instance, of like ITDR rule configuration. I think Pierre just asked a question very similar of like, hey, can you help me do mass things? Can you help deny
yeah,
all locations? Can you help me in bulk? So we're putting work. Not only like some of these features we told you are like near term, this is live. So you can quite literally deny by default, deny all access rules to an account or an organization to stop sign-ins from literal all countries. I will say we've seen a lot of people don't fully understand what is VPNing in your clients' environments, or if you have, like, again, a larger business across all the different regions. So just a warning, this is one of those of like, it's an awesome feature. You could hinder
yeah,
productivity. So just be fucking careful, right? When you're rolling these out.
yeah, yeah.
But I do think it was an oversight for us not to give those type of default deny. So darn good job, Rich
Yeah,
and ITDR team.
yeah. I mean, we definitely approached it from the standpoint of like, let's build the baseline. Let's identify where the users are logging in. And we didn't want to immediately go and deny all, but as more people have actually started to use this themselves, where they're actually coming in and they're creating the rules beforehand and not just like just in time as people log in. It was nice for them to be able to go create the list and then, say, "Hey, okay, everything else is bad." But funny, David actually asked, he said, "Hey, it would be nice to have an end date for regional exceptions." So, Kyle, if you go to the next slide,
Boom, right here.
boom, start dates, expiration dates. You can now put people in there for travel and say, like, this only applies between these times. So, you asked, we listened. There you go. Yes, Billy Mays energy, right?
Just slap it on there,
Just
Chris.
slap it. Careful, you don't want to get
It's
mixed up with that slap chop guy. That's we don't want to go there.
Oh, the slap chop. I thought I went to shake weight. Sorry. Let's keep going. Innovation time. I'm sorry. This is what Chris and I, if you can't tell, we're further and further out of like the deep, deep weeds. We get to do R&D, but this is about our only time that we get to actually bullshit. So, with that said, I get to tell a story that's both EDR and supporting the identity world, which by the way, I think this is one of my favorite segments of the year. It starts with good education. So, if those of you aren't aware, Objective C, probably one of my favorite Mac OS organizations, right? This is Patrick Wardle and team now, not just Patrick. They've been tracking info stealers all day, every day, and they talked about it growing from 23 to 24. And what a surprise, we're seeing tons of this in 2025. Nobody thinks Macs don't get malware anymore. It's just what flavor of malware. Remember, malware has all kinds of crazy stuff: ransoming, showing ads, running malicious commands, keystroke logging, turning on your webcam to peep at Chris. But the ones I'm talking about are over here in this little Venn diagram of info stealers. Steal your cookies, steal your API tokens, steal your passwords, and upload and download them. So these are the nasty ones. And the part, oh, you have children in the background. Refraining from cursing is a hard one. Weber probably has a curse-friendly, stream, but I will do my best for you. With that said, we want to share that we're seeing this uptick against Mac. A lot of time, it's both against the Web3 cryptocurrency world, but with that said, it's also a major part of developers, major part of developers on that end. And with that said, just want to warn that with the info sealers we're seeing go after Mac, etc., they're not just going after the passwords anymore. Of course, they're going for the cute things like cryptocurrency wallets, but this one about API keys is actually a substantial kind of emerging threats. If you think about how many devs used to do on Mac OS as opposed to a Windows box, it's a good number of them. We see them at Huntress, etc. And so we just want to warn this is an uptick that's happening here. With that said, I want to just warn that Apple is doing their best to try to be able to prevent against this. If you guys aren't like diehard Mac OS folks, I'm not either. I'm a Windows zealot, I guess, for the Mac fanboys. But where I'm going with this is it's getting a little bit better. They introduced and implemented a technology called Gatekeeper. And when you get the DMG file, the installer file, they often say, hey, please drag the little icon into the applications folder to install, right? That's the typical routine. It's manual. And when you do this, it actually triggers Gatekeeper. So if anybody of you ever got this little pop-up that says, yo, I looked at the notation of this and I double checked that this app is not quite as legit as it should be. This is the type of stuff that Gatekeeper will pop up. So, of course, it's not a ton different than the smart screen warnings you get on Windows. It's a little different when it comes to implementation. But the part that I want to get at is because it's attempting to check for this code signing information, which includes the notarization part that I mentioned earlier. And if it's been downloaded from the internet, Gatekeeper does its job. Insert hackers. So the cat and mouse, by the way, just works, generally speaking, in the sense of like, look, hey, can we get around Gatekeeper? Can we behave some way that, for instance, just doesn't go through the code path that Gatekeeper is going to take a look at? So if you take a look at one of their implementations of this fake software info stealer called Gatekeeper, or called Gatekeeper, called Dynamic Lake, that actually is other malicious commands, you drag this actual drag into terminal MSI, which is actually a command. You drag it into the command prompt. And what it does is, because it's not actually installing to the applications folder, but it's causing the command prompt to open, and it populates the command prompt with the text, for instance, to run this other command, it never triggers. And so we're seeing this. And I'll be honest, this isn't the sexiest looking malware, but I mean, it feels like the user experience. So we are seeing this and we're seeing this happen. And we're trying to ask, how can we not only detect this, what can we do to prevent against this? And I'll tell you, there's much better versions of the social engineering. Like, take a look at this one. This is about as sexy as it gets. It is indeed like Chrome, for instance. This is not Chrome. This is an info stealer. And what they found out, that if you go, instead of dragging and dropping or clicking the actual app that triggers Gatekeeper, because not all apps are notarized, Apple had to have a way to allow people to run unnotarized apps. And so what they do is if you right click on the app and you choose to open it, it will actually run the malicious command, right? And it will get past that gatekeeper pop-up. So this is just good old-fashioned social engineering, but it allows full customization, backgrounds, buttons, text, etc. It's wild. It's absolutely wild. With that said, we got to do something about it because, to be very frank, it's not good. Info stealers automatically pivot almost immediately. We see this happen straight to like your M365 account, etc. And so to bring in the end of the year, no New Year's resolutions yet. I'm right there with you, David. Who doesn't love a dad bod, right? Who does not love a dad bod? With that said, using probably Chat GPT, I'm guessing what came up with this. DMGs were analyzing the bitmaps. We're just saying we're reading the text of the freaking DMGs. Like, let's be real. That's what
Yeah,
we're actually
yeah,
doing.
yeah.
But Dad Bod is an R&D effort. We personally don't know if it's going to work. And actually, I've got some examples showing where it doesn't work. False positives happen, but I'll give you the whole rundown. So imagine you're looking at, for instance, in any Mac OS device, you can go and just click on, hey, this number, or click on the domain, and it automatically OCRs, it reads the text and allows you to click. That is a vision API that's allowing us to be able to do that. And that's great for convenience. So you can imagine it's not a crazy idea to say, what if we could hook when a DMG, when an application is trying to be installed, could we OCR or read the text using the built in APIs and say, it's a background command. Instead of just allowing that to run, what if we threw that through the Apple Vision API? And you could imagine things, for instance, like searching for the word right click or open, or any of the other like 10,000 social engineering tactics that are, commonly used to get people to do some of these. We think this is a way to be able to not just do detection and response, but actually like find nastiness. Now, I'll warn, like part of our dad bod failures is like sometimes we run into software, like I'll bring this one over here real quick, like Wave Ortho. It's like a legitimate, I think, orthodontics software. The developers are using the same exact technique to get people and say right click open and to get past these, like, because their software isn't signed, isn't notarized, sorry. Um,
Oh.
and they're using these same techniques to get their
Ooh.
unnotarized software to run. So we're finding that like purely denying could break things in production. It's the benefit of us having, hundreds of thousands and millions of endpoints to test these things on. We can find in advance where would we have caused trouble. So none of this is rolled out. It is pure R&D. But I'm curious, what are you guys thinking so far in regards to the idea of Dadbod? We know it's a silly name and everything else. Liking it? Not liking it?
See, David said they should get their software signed. As somebody who's working on application control that relies pretty heavily on signed software, I agree. All software should be signed.
Dad bods for the wind. I mean, Chris, I get it. I mean, don't get me wrong. I've done open source software and everything else, and sometimes it's a pain, but you've been wrecked by dad bod. I think all of these things, I'll have to make sure the team knows. Stuart is the product researcher who's leading this. And so team, we are testing. We are finding in cases that it actually could stop. And the problem with, if you remember, info stealers, they're just smash and grab. If they run, it only takes a handful of seconds for them to be able to get the info they need and upload, and you're done. At that point, you have to roll all your API keys. You have to guess what credentials they got, what credit card data they stole. It's very quick. So we think this solution needs to be preventive. We think, we don't want to prevent dad bods this holiday season. We're actually embracing the dad bod and just want to give you the heads up that that's our silly idea we're playing with. If any of you have Mac OS machines that, for instance, want us to maybe test and play and consider, we'll always take that type of feedback. You can chime in and chat or hit your account manager up and say, hey, I'm in for a dad bod. I see some of you already jumped on board. Chris, we need dad bod shirts.
Yes. Yes.
But this is it. So halfway through, I brought you Dad Bod. And yeah, exactly. All the hazing. The HR team is going to be on us between cursing and dad bods. We're going straight to hell. Um,
Yeah.
Keep it going, Chris. Do you want to drive this or do you want me to just click for you about your acquisition? So I got more than enough people that said hit me up with the dad bod. So I've
Yeah,
got
yeah.
those names and I'll make sure we run with some of this.
Yeah, if you want to just click, I got some screenshots in here. So this is the first. So if you haven't heard, we acquired a company called Inside Agent. It's a company out of the UK. It was two guys, Scott and Ben. And they actually started they have a consulting company called Cloud Nexus, and they would really consult with like a lot of MSPs, a lot of different, like even mid-market companies who would come to them and say, hey, we've got Microsoft 365, help us secure it. What are the settings that need to kind of be there? And they took all of those learnings and turned them into a product that would make it much easier. So instead of going and clicking all around in the Entra UI and going, across 100 or 200 tenants, doing the same thing, you could apply it in bulk. You could do it much easier through the UI. We really liked this idea because we were talking about moving, further left in the timeline. How do we get to preventing more rather than just detecting it after some bad stuff happens? So we liked kind of where they were going and their expertise and all of that, but we wanted to bring it in and kind of rebuild it in the Huntress way. So let's talk about what's there first. So if you go to, yep, so we can kind of see they're bringing in a bunch of the stuff from Entra, Microsoft Security Score, how secure are you? How has it changed over time? What are your users? All of that. There's so much in here, I couldn't show it all, but I wanted to put some screenshots in there just to give people an idea of like this type of stuff that we're looking at. So we're going to jump to the next one. We're looking at things like, okay, who are the users? Which ones have MFA? Which ones don't have MFA? This is actually a real screenshot from our internal stuff. I think we have some new users who have been added but haven't started yet. So you can see we had a few users without MFA, which is interesting. I got to go ask the team to like, hey, what's the deal with this? Make sure like we didn't slip up here or something. Um, but you can see like a lot of this stuff is starting to get in there. If you go to the next slide.
It's always that awkward moment, right? When you're like drinking your
Yep.
own champagne, eating your own dog food, and then you're like, ugh.
Yeah, you're like, oh wait, we didn't do that. We should fix that. There's actually some overlap here with ITDR. So ITDR has, and we showed it earlier, the feature about like, hey, where are you logging in from? What VPN are you logging in from? Um, Through Inside Agent, you could configure a lot of that stuff through your named locations in Entra, in conditional access policies. Now, obviously, you got to have the license for that. You got to have the P1 license to get the conditional access. Um, but what my point is, because there's some overlap between ITDR and what we're going to create out of this, which is ISPM, they're really pretty tightly integrated and they'll do a lot of the same type of stuff. And so if you jump to the next one, where I think we'll take this is beyond just saying what are the locations, but like how do we help you craft, deploy, and manage more of these policies for conditional access. So you can see we've got a lot of them turned on, which is beneficial internally, but not everybody does. Many people are kind of working through this and are painfully having issues with it. So that's kind of where we're going. What is it? What do we need? If you want to jump to, I think
I
it's the
mean,
next slide. Yep.
and Chris, you
What
got a
does
lot of
this look
questions
like
of
going
just
from, what was that?
sorry, brother. You just got a handful of good questions and people looking at for instance, like, hey, how does this differ from SIP? A lot of people, obviously, we support
Yeah,
SIP. I think we still contribute financially to SIP too.
I think we do. I
So
think monthly we give them money. So and here's how it differs. And this is where I would say whether it's like Inside Agent or SIP or Enforcer or many of these of the existing products out there, they're a tool, right? You got to go log into it. You got to go identify what is and what isn't set. You got to go click the buttons. They probably allow you to do it across multiple tenants and all of that, but you got to do it, right? It's not automated. It's not add the tenant, good to go. Um, and so that's kind of where we want to get to. Is like, how do we make it easier? How do we make it more automated? How do we not only detect that there is drift between the policy you want and what's currently active, but how do we either change it back for you or say, hey, we saw this change. Do you want to keep this change temporarily, like for 12 hours or 24 hours? And then we'll set it back if it's not already set back.
I
How
think,
do
yeah,
we
the
do
managed
that
component is going to be
kind
a
of
big
stuff?
part. Obviously, the cross collaboration between many products, allowing this to
Yeah,
be able to work hand in hand with ITDR, allowing it to us to expand as well. I look at ISPM as a like the letter T. Think about what we're doing right now is very deep vertical control of like your primary productivity app, M365 or Google Workspace.
yeah,
But
yeah,
there's also going to be a need to do the breadth part of what about all the apps that people are using? What about all the SaaS applications online? So you'll see Huntress as we evolve. Things like a browser plugin are almost guaranteed the direction we'll go and add with this, where we can see
yeah,
different things that you're doing, make sure that we're saying, hey, people are using these apps. You could even tie these into just like you would do on the endpoint with maybe like a DNS filtering or policy control, but less about what content you go to and what apps you allow. So there's just going to be a lot of that really deep integration here. So yeah, there's going to be some of it. And Chris, I shared in chat already, but just I mean, putting it
yeah,
on the record, we really looked at SIP of whether I mean we love Kelvin. Kelvin is my ride or die. But would we acquire it? And we just ultimately looked and said we can't simultaneously main an open source project and deliver like where we want to go with the product. And we just couldn't justify with Chris and I both being
yeah.
huge fans of open source. We couldn't kill off an open source project. So like we just weren't going to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just going to be like too much and like we would have to keep it open source and then there would be kind of two versions of it, like the Huntress version, the open source version, and then people would be confused. Hey, you said it would do this, but I don't see it. Oh, it's only in the paid version, we didn't want to do that. Ultimately, it was like a lot of just stuff there. So we said, hey, how can we acquire something or build something that works? And this is kind of where we got. And so yeah, like that's the idea is like how do we make it easier? Some of the things we've been talking about are how do we identify the changes that are not user impacting, the things that people are like not doing, and you just turn those settings on and you're more secure, right? Like one of the settings is like don't allow users to bulk export SharePoint. That, that's not going to be user impacting in almost all cases. So like how do we turn that on for you automatically? Then how do we identify the things that are going to be user impacting? Forcing people to use MFA, turning on conditional access policies, which may reject them periodically. These are all going to be things that like the end user, whether you're an IT department or an MSP, those they're going to see it and be like, what the heck is this? How do we make it easier on you? Some of the things we're looking at are like, how do we give you email copy that makes it easy for you to just send out emails to tell people, hey, this is what's happening. Here's when it's happening. What does this mean for you? Can we provide like trainings that are just right in the SAT platform that make it easy? You can send the training out, your users can take it, they'll now understand. Like, how do we take that burden off of you of turning those settings on? Because we know that is also a case of where it's like, oh, I want to turn this on, but my users are going to freak out and I just don't have the time to educate them. So, how do we make that easy?
So Pre-J asked a question, Chris. How does Huntress envision Insight Agent working alongside other tools like SIP, Enforcer, Nerdio, right? There's always going to be some level of overlap. You want to maybe give high level? And I think it's probably even worth talking about like SAT, right? If you remember the version of SAT that we acquired,
Yeah.
the big idea of why we acquire these tools is not just to let them rot, it's to be able to like oftentimes strip them down to the studs and rebuild them in the vision that we see or kind of through the Huntress mantra. So you want to cover maybe both those? And then I'll keep teeing up
Yeah.
questions because you got some good ones.
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll work side by side with all of those tools. Obviously, there could be some issues if it's like you have one policy set up like an enforcer and one policy set up in Huntress, right? Then we might be fighting each other trying to change the policy back and forth, but that shouldn't be too hard to identify and kind of get that same, and so that way they're working together. But I don't because a lot of it is just like setting the settings within Entra or within Microsoft 365. Or I saw somebody ask in chat, yes, Google, that's the intention is that we'll also expand this to Google and setting their settings and all that. So in one case, it's just that. So there shouldn't really be a conflict. And then the other stuff that I talked about in terms of like, how do we figure out if users are doing something, who's going to be impacted? If it's turning on MFA for everyone, well, if 70% of the users already have it, how do we identify the other 30% and help educate them? So I don't think there will be too many impacts. But to your point, Kyle, of like, what did we acquired Curricula 3 years ago-ish, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
Um, and we
Millions of
acquired
dollars of
them.
R&D, millions of lines of new code.
It was a good product at the time, but it was missing things that would make it easy to adopt by, resellers and MSPs and even IT departments, right? There was a lot of like manual stuff. You could do it. You just had to go in and click a lot of buttons and stuff like that. And we spent the time to improve a lot of that, to improve the multi-tenancy, to really build out that management piece. So you buy security awareness training and it just works. It's not something you have to go in and configure and click every month. That's not what we want.
I know we're speaking quick due to time. Ray, apologize about speaking so darn quick. The product we acquired was called Inside Agent, and it's going to be a portion of what we build out and build into what we call ISPM. SPM always stands for Security Posture Management. There's 1,000 flavors of it. The I being the identity version. We will also eventually build, and this is what Chris is working on now. If you missed our previous episodes, part of our ESPM, endpoint security posture management. So thanks for the good question on that one. Um, Adam asked the question, Chris, when will ISPM product be available? Are we giving people just like free access to go and fuck with it now, or how are we doing that?
We've had some folks kind of jump in already. So what we're trying to do is trying to not to get a bunch of people to jump into the inside agent product and then us having to transition them. But if it's you're needing to buy something, you're wanting to leave, your contract's up for renewal, whatever, something like that, let us know. Talk to your account manager. We are on in some cases letting people jump into the other product and using them as kind of like design partners as we're building out the new stuff. So the team is pushing really hard for the new ISPM product that's fully integrated with Huntress. We're building it out. I meet with them every day and we talk about the status, where are we at, all that kind of stuff. So we're making progress, but it's not yet to the point where like you can really use it. So if that like those things that I listed, you're needing to buy something, gonna renew, have to make a choice or something, definitely reach out to your account manager and we'll figure out how to get you sorted.
Awesome, awesome. Chris, I'm keeping it going on that. Folks asked the question just because it's adjacent, and I missed it earlier. Alex asked the question, any update on ITDR for Google? Team, if you didn't see, I actually put a pretty public statement on this. Our ITDR for Google is actually more or less production ready. There's only now one problem preventing. There was two problems as of a month ago. The first one was Google was delivering data, like their payloads, in very irregular and sometimes extremely elongated intervals. Like it might be many hours and then Huntress gets notified. And by the way, it's anybody who used Google Workspace APIs. So we went out there and said, anybody can use our Google Workspace for free. It is a production ready product. It is not beta anymore, but we're not going to charge for it right now until one more problem gets solved. Google, with literally us collaborating directly with the CEO of Google Cloud, Thomas, and his team, they fixed the API latency issues from everything I understand. That is now done for every vendor, by the way, not just for Huntress, literally every vendor as a result of this. And then there's just not enough of certain payload data for us to have the fidelity of what we would call a true ITDR product. So if any of you are thinking about using M3, or sorry, ITDR for Google Workspace, like you should abuse the heck out of it right now because it is a production ready, production quality product, and we will give it to you for free. Obviously, one day we'll have to start charging for the darn thing, and we'll figure that out. But the idea is until it meets the standard of Huntress, we're just not gonna like. We actually are questioning how any vendor is charging for ITDR in Google Workspace. And
Yeah.
this was enough, by the way, that we completely at Huntress internally moved away for identity management using Google Workspace. We're still using it for email, et cetera, but we are now using Azure for our identity management because the telemetry was that sparse. We didn't feel comfortable as a company. So excited, but you can imagine when a company like ours moves away from a product, Thomas and the team at Google Cloud has just been pretty darn good, pretty awesome to work with. So they're moving. They're a big org, so give them some time. Chris, we've got not enough stuff, like not enough time, too much stuff in here. Did you
Yep.
see? I mean, there's a whole bunch of questions I want to get to. Like maybe the last one, Chris, is they said, do you have any plans to create a browser? Right. So think about nowadays, some people have secure browsers, some people have like browser agents, you
Oh, a
know.
browser, not a browser plugin, a full browser.
Well, I mean, there's both, right? Nowadays, people like Island, and there's all kinds of these new ones that are the actual secure browsers themselves. Um, I'm curious, what's your thought? I don't see us moving to a whole browser.
Yeah, a whole browser. I actually thought about this. It's really interesting because it allows us to get like super deep hooks. And the path like has already been paved, right? I saw recently, maybe a week before, OpenAI now has their own like kind of browser. Again, like basically everybody else, it's built on top of Chromium. But it allows them to like have this really strong like integration of AI and all that kind of stuff. So I thought about it, and maybe it is the right answer, but it's a lot of work to just keep up with the velocity of of Chromium and WebKit and all the things that go into it. And what I would hate to have is like if we can't keep up and we can't ship releases fast enough, there may be vulnerabilities that are identified in those patched, and we are not able to roll out the patched version fast enough. So that concerns me. We have looked at doing things like a browser plugin. Now, those are oftentimes limited by like how much they can do or influence, whether it's like with respect to like the requests going in or out. Like there was a whole bunch there around some of the ad blocking ones where like the browsers were taking away capabilities that they were using to be able to identify if it was an ad and block it and stuff like that. So it's something that we are definitely looking at and considering. And I think that applies to for sure, like I guess you could say ISPM, kind of SSPM, like the SaaS security posture management, really identifying like what systems are people using and in which cases are they logging in with like passwords as opposed to, SAML, single sign-on type of stuff. So, definitely something that we are going to continue to look into, but I don't have anything for you right now. But that's kind of how we think about it.
All right, Chris. Um, 9 minutes is not a lot. We've got more questions. I'll hang till the very end. Like we will probably like stop the recording, but I'll go through all the questions if people want to hang with me and you got the time. Um, Chris, I wanted to share with you a couple things that are worth, and maybe we can just, we'll continue this next month because I think this one's not sexy enough to go through. It turns out human risk management is moving fast. We've kidded about this. We've talked about this for about a year on Product Lab. Folks blew me up the other day and said, "Hey, Chat and Gemini seem to agree with you." We've talked, I don't know. I feel like ad infinitum at this point on Product Lab that we believe security awareness training is going to become something else. We didn't know what the acronym the marketers are going to call it. But folks hit us up with some screens the other day. I'm obviously sharing the screenshots, but the hypothesis was just like how antivirus became EDR or EPP, that security awareness training was going to become something else. And if you follow the AIs, they believe that this isn't just a possibility. They actually think this is largely already happening and how it's playing out. And I want to share with you three major things that I want you to be aware of. I actually need some help prioritizing feedback, but I'm just not going to have time. And by the way, Jemmy's saying the same thing. It's not just chat, it's Gemini and, Perplexity, Claude, you name it. They all kind of said, yo, this is actually already happening. And the new acronym that everybody says is human risk management. So I don't know. We'll figure out our product marketing, but I want to let people know that this change is happening really on, I will call it three major axes. So if you want to think about what the table stakes technology is, you're considering your own security awareness or human risk management, whether it's for your company or 1,000 companies that you manage, the table stakes stuff is, what 80% that delivers 20% of the value. This is the training contents. Of course, you need them. The phishing simulations, the metrics, the leaderboards, the performance reportings. And I personally believe whether you're managing it or a team, it needs to be fully managed. Now, the stuff that's wild, and I really want to get a lot of feedback because our team has the resources to build a lot on SAT, but we're going to need your guidance on what to build first. The dynamic and contextual interventions. Think about something that's like maybe I should intervene with a junior technician that has admin creds probably different than I intervene with a CEO. So that's role-based context. Or where did you see the incidents happening? Did they happen on their identity and you're seeing proof in logs? So now you need to queue up really at the right place. So just in time, not overloading them with constant education, but just the right trainings at the right time and not inundating. I actually would say a major part of human risk management appears to be less can be more if you do it at the right time. The wild part about it is all the research, and I have just grokked probably 80 pages of academic research and even fewer pages, though I would call it more dense pages from the big analysts and enterprise at Forrester. And it aligns largely with what we've been saying on Product Lab. You have to change the behaviors of the actual end users, and you don't do that by making them do 10,000 tests. You do that by actually showing them, and even better, having them do. You need them to be able to do whether it's simulations or actually be able to have some sort of positive social behavior where they're encouraging each other, whether it's again leaderboard driven, etc. But you actually need to change the right behaviors at the right time. And that includes making people feel like junk, feeling like crap when they fail one of these. The last one, which I think it's more going to impact like the enterprises, but when we talk about whole business integration, it sounds like human risk management and the way that we're going to approach it at Huntress is I don't care if you're using SentinelOne or CrowdStrike, as long as it's a good quality product. Why can't something like that, or if you're using like something like Abnormal or Info, what's the one I just mentioned, Enforcer, if they're seeing a behavior that's risky, that's not there, not configured, etc. Why could they not chime in to our APIs and trigger the right education? And that means through the whole security stack, but obviously the more mature reporting, the less technical mumbo jumbo. So I've got a whole bunch to go here, Chris. I'm just going to literally skip the next slides because I won't have time. But this is where, if you guys are down with this and are okay with giving me feedback, I see some people giving thumbs up. If you could just give me like with the reactions or in chat, like, are we okay with this? Because I'm pretty adaptive sat one versus all. Okay, this is either there's crazies on here or people are just liking this because we've got a whole
Yeah.
lot of ideas on how to shift.
Yeah. I mean,
Adaptive, I like
Craig
it.
said,
Dynamic.
Craig said making a top tier attorney feel small will not work. I think this is actually the opposite of that, where I think we would be saying, hey, you person, like you are so important to the organization that the potential that if somebody fishes you, like the organization would have really bad problems. I think that's kind of the opposite. We're not saying, hey, you're menial and you don't mean anything, but it's more like, hey, like you are valuable to the organization, but because of your access and all that, it is a potential risk.
I love people already calling out. What about HR management? How are you going to know the difference between these acronyms? I
Yeah,
promise we
I don't
don't choose
know.
these acronyms. I like the fact that ITDR has a T in it and it wasn't just IDR for identity detection and response.
Yeah.
Marketers.
Yeah, it's one of those things that's like hard. Like I'd love to call these products something else. But like if somebody is searching for, oh, I want an EDR, I want like ITDR, they're not going to search for like the custom Huntress name, you know? So like we have to both align with what people are looking for and all of that. So we're trying to figure out what the best way to do it is. But yeah, I don't love all these acronyms. I talk to a lot of prospects and they're like, what does ITDR mean? And I'm like, don't worry about it.
Yeah, the T in pneumonia. No, that's P. Anyways, Chris, you got a teaser. Somebody called you out, and I brought this in. I don't know if you saw this, but somebody called you out on Reddit, bigger than shit, and it was an MSP. So talking with a bunch of geeks, and somebody was ragging on Proofpoint for some reason. I don't have skin in the game. I don't know enough about Proofpoint. I hear good, I hear bad. It is what it is. Um, and then Chris just jumped in there and asked this simple question of, have you anybody tried Sublime? And they're a company that's like in the enterprise space, but they're definitely not in the full MSP space. They're working through it. And somebody, Chris, I don't know if you even got a chance to respond to this, but they want to know what you got brewing. So I'm putting you on blast. What do you have brewing? Are you actually doing something, or is this like your iPhone and Android app that we're waiting on?
Yeah. That's a good question. So yeah, we are doing stuff. I did reply to this one actually. We are looking at Sublime Security, and one of the reasons why I wanted to like see if anybody else had tried it and what people kind of thought. Um, we talked with them because we've been looking at doing email security a bit, and we got a lot of questions from people saying, hey, where I get security awareness training is from my email security provider, Proofpoint, Mimecast. A lot of these like also have it, and they're saying, hey, I'd love fewer vendors, and so I don't want to buy email security that comes with training and then have to buy your training as well. Can you guys add email security? So we have been looking around and just trying to figure out like, is there even room to innovate in email security? It's been around for a long time. There are a lot of people that do it. Don't get me wrong, that doesn't mean there's no room. I mean, EDR was a thing long before we tried it, right? And we figured out how we could do it differently. But as we looked around, I got introduced to Sublime and I looked at their product and I was like, well, this is probably what I would have built if I had to build it from scratch. So like, I don't want to rebuild the same thing they have. And so yeah, we started kind of talking with them. Um, and I know we're kind of out of time. I don't know if you want to show these slides, but we looked at the tech and we really like the tech. And so we kind of had to come down to this build versus buy versus partner conversation. Do we try to build it? Do we buy it? Do we partner? We kind of came down to partner. We didn't really feel like we could build it differently. They've raised a bunch of money and are, trying to do their thing, which is great. So can we partner with them? I put some of the stuff that we're looking on here. It's got to be good tech. Our SOC's got to be able to manage it and customize the detections. It's got to have multi-tenancy, all of that. So, you played around. There's actually some really cool stuff as part of taking apart an email. And so you can see here was like um, it's
Is that
a
an official thing, Chris? Like we're actually partnering, or is that's kind of like, hey, we think we're probably gonna have to partner, or we probably should partner just because they built it good enough, or
yeah,
what
we don't
are
have
we
anything. We
thinking?
don't have anything formal in place yet, but I've been talking with them for a while. So,
There's a lot of
um,
Avanon commentary in here.
yeah.
Folks are chiming in of what they like, what they don't like, and I mean, this is why we're asking team, by the way, like just trying to make sure, like, we don't want to stop somebody's productivity. Inline email is amazing, and or email
Yeah.
protection is amazing. It's also super dangerous, but
Yeah, yeah, and I've seen issues come with like inline stuff where if the vendor has some issue, then suddenly you're not getting email at all, and that's probably worse than like maybe sometimes getting phishing emails. So like, let's not screw up the thing that's already working.
yeah. Clay asked a great question. Clay, good seeing you, by the way, stud. Asking like price wise. I think like Huntress's MO has always been no, don't only disrupt with the technology, but like disrupt, like make it this what we call it internally is the lowest total cost of ownership, meaning you can't buy this technology and then either hire somebody else to manage it or manage it yourself for a lower total cost of ownership. That's like a pure MO of what like drives Chris and I. And so we're not sure if like even if partnering would allow that total cost of ownership, but we're definitely looking into it. The reason we say it is like what I'm screen sharing. We see a lot of these email things that we're like, man, it would have been nice not having to like even train a user to fish against that when they just should have never got that. And as much as I love both the Microsoft security, side of the house, not everybody pays for the business premium and E5 licensing. Not everybody has like the Google side, and they're not I don't know. Anti-spam, anti-phishing has been around for a long time, and I don't know if it even makes sense for hunters to do it. But I will say, Jonathan, if you'll give me permission, if we have an acronym and I get the opportunity, I will call this hamster the hostile activity mail security threat evaluation and response product, Chris.
Yeah, there you go. That's a good like internal name. I'm not even
Oh,
gonna say that other one. Jesus.
come on, couch potato. You don't want to say couch potato? Oh,
Oh, not that one.
I know what you're saying.
So anyway,
Let's give
we've
some
been
free
looking
stuff
at it.
away, dude. I mean, we're at it. We've made people go
We'll
3 minutes
we'll
over,
continue.
and then we'll BS. We'll turn the recording off and BS more folks if they want to
Yeah.
know more about this. Oh
Yeah.
man, you got all kinds of rules analysis. I forgot you've gone deep into looking at this.
Yeah, yeah. I wanted to see, kind of how it worked and whether or not it was like, we have a high bar for expectations of like, does something, can it detect stuff? And is it going to work and all of that? So you can see here some of their analysis on like this, like Google comment phishing, which is interesting. I actually had never seen that before, but I guess it makes sense because it's a legitimate sender. And if you go to the next one, like some of the cool stuff that I really liked was like you can actually write your own rules to match against different emails. So what we will probably do if we go down this route is we will do the triage of all the stuff coming in that gets flagged. We'll look at it, decide if it's bad. If it is bad, or if we find something that we've missed, then we will, write our own rule, push it out to all the tenants, and then everybody gets the benefit of it, just like we do with anything else. So it probably means less work for everyone because I know a lot of people right now are getting these emails and either trying to triage them or have just declared bankruptcy and said, "Hey, there's too many of these phishing email reports. We just can't even look at them." So,
All right, dude. And I know we got more. We need your feedback. Chris, we got to do better at time management. We just spent way too much time in the beginning with the releases
yeah,
here.
yeah.
But you guys have largely answered a lot of our questions. Thank you for helping with this. Like we'll go back and read because I haven't been able to read all the chat. But if you've got anything in here of stuff that like you like, if you can't tell, we haven't decided. Like this is very fluid. Um, and if you even think like, is this even something we should waste our time with? We think that having somebody manage your spam and phishing triage and detection work is something we could do. Should we do it though? Just because you can doesn't mean you should. So, yeah, David, I'll find a way. Yeah, maybe some survey or something that's a little bit more formal instead of going back. Um, Chris, it's a wrap. We're going to be in many places. If you're in any of these places, you better come hang with us because, I mean, if you look at some of these events, they are just insane. Some of the stuff we're putting on look like a bomb shelter in this one. It's just absolutely insanity. Keeping it going, Chris. There was a lot of good people on here. Who was the one that I made so spicy and salty earlier with my cursing? Can I send you a piece of swag for an apology? I mean, I couldn't stop, but can't stop,
What
won't
was that?
stop.
Like G Wee Hammond?
Wait, is that just a John Hammond troll or is this a real person?
That's the chat was asking the same thing. They're like, is this Hammond troll? I'm not sure.
Oh my gosh, I hope it. You know what? And he's oh gosh, I gotta know. Is this John Hammond? Are you a real person? Can we get you something? This will be my yeah, my coin in the curse jar. All right, Chris, you got another one while we go through here. Let's give a couple. I mean, I see there's a Yeti now on the slide. So
Mm,
do Andrea,
yeah.
a team that's doing the swag, do we actually have Yetis or are they shirts? What are we giving away?
David Stevens has been, participating a lot today, so I think that's a good one.
All right, David, you're getting hooked up. Did I miss it? There's people saying Yeti for the win. I'm just hoping it is the Yeti because those things are like amazing. I
I
actually
think
want
so.
one.
I think
Okay.
so. I have
What
the little ones. I have this.
what about
Oh
Pre-J?
man,
Pre-J
you
asked
can't
a
even see. There
question
you go.
earlier. I don't remember what it was. We should reward our Q&A people too. How about Jessica had a question? Can we give out like three or four of them?
Yeah, I answered some of the questions. Oh, one of them that I wanted to answer kind of live. So we had this EDR vulnerability. Actually, somebody reported it to us. Some independent security researcher reported it to us. We paid them a bunch of money as a thank you for it. We fixed it, pushed out updates to like all of the 4.5 million Huntress endpoints out there. But there are many endpoints. There's like out of 4.5 million, I think there's 26,000, roughly, that for whatever reason won't update. Some of them it's because the Huntress updater was quarantined by another AV and so it can't update. Some of them it's because the disk is full. Some of them just has like other reasons. So we've been trying to update these last few, but we've got it down to the point where it's like, okay, now at this point, we actually need, someone to go and help us out because it is stuck and we have done as much as we can do remotely. So somebody asked like, hey, are we going to monitor the EDR version in the future on an outdated global dashboard? We track all of that internally. We know like which versions are out there and who has how many and which ones are outdated. We also show that to you in your dashboard. So we're going to continue to work on the agent and just make it more resilient to be able to update. But We sent out emails yesterday, day before, to a bunch of people and said, "Hey, we need your help. Can you go like poke on these machines because we can't update them?"
For those asking, you don't have to update your agents yourself, by the way.
Correct.
We do all the agent updating for you. There
Yep.
can just be weird things that put your system into a state. Maybe you killed off your updater. Maybe you had an RMM tool that just keeps restoring the outdated version. There's some of these, and that's why we're reaching out. But 99.999% of you, we do all the updating. We don't want you to have yet another thing to
Yeah.
patch. That's insane. So good.
Like I
Thanks for
said, we've got
clarifying.
like 4.5 million endpoints out there. We updated all of them long ago, other than these 26,000 that are just for whatever reason stuck.
All right. Who were the people? I got Jiwi Hammond. I got it was Jessica Loveland asked a question about auditing. Was there
Yep.
anybody else, Chris, that you said David's?
David Stevens.
So for those of you, David Stevens, oh, gotcha. It seems like David Stevens is on there. David, you
Yep,
just hook.
Cody got it right there.
Okay. Do we have one more? Pre-J was asking questions in here earlier. Um, Pre-J, have you ever got one before? Like product lab. Cool. There's four of them. So increasing the swag. Thanks, Andrea, for getting the Yetis back. These things are awesome. All right, team. I promised questions. So one of them, by the way, Jessica, who I felt bad not getting to her question earlier when we were deep. Um, there was a product lab a couple episodes in a really heavily upvoted thing saying, "Hey, team, like I need more audit log actions in the portal." And Chris, correct me if I'm wrong. I think what we did is we wanted to get the SIM done so we could put this into the SIM. Is that where all of the Huntress audit logs are now stored? And that's free.
Yes,
They get that audit log for free
correct.
because it's just
Yep.
our own stuff.
You get it for
Um,
free. It's in there. But one of the things that we got to do is we got to go back and identify these other places where we're not generating an audit log. So that person had asked about like, hey, when somebody creates a rule within ITDR to say like, oh, allow this person from this location or allow this VPN or whatever, at that place, we're doing it, but we're not creating that audit log. So that is something I pass that on to the team, but it is for sure something that we are going back and we need to be more diligent about doing it on all the products is figure out what are all the places that we should be creating one of these audit logs and then trying to figure out going forward how do we do that? Because we don't want to generate audit logs for like every single action of like a user viewed this page or a user clicked this thing, because that's not useful. But it's hard to make sure you catch everything. So great feedback. We will get that in there.
we had a couple. I don't think I've ever heard anybody ask for Huntress certs before, and I was just getting a little bit more info. If any of you didn't catch on our old episodes, we once mentioned that like it's actually the problem is some of our partners, and there's a lot of internal IT departments that probably should use the help of a partner. Um, and for those of you who aren't like this, I'm not talking about you. There's just a lot of people that will turn off our auto remediations, will turn off like the assisted remediations, or we might see something well before it needs an incident, but we need feedback. We need an escalation. And we're running into the problem that there are a lot of really, really good partners and customers that take action, set their stuff up, and are doing a great job to protect. But there is nothing worse than like us finding stuff and then the last mile getting broken because like we either needed an escalation. So we're trying to do it on our end first, put the blame at us first of like we need to make a mobile app that makes this easier. We need to be able to make auditing and reminders easier. So we're going to own that first as our problem. But there are definitely some partners and customers that were like, these are pretty rough. They're really not taking security as serious as they should. And we're considering a grading scale. Like everybody could be platinum. If you've met that quarter, the standard, you would have a platinum rating for that quarter. If you were a little bit lower, you might be gold. And maybe if certain things like, hey, if we warned you of a ransomware action and you had automatic isolation turned off and you had these other things, maybe there's a concept of this quarter you go straight to bronze. And again, it's not to say it wouldn't be publicly accessible, but it would allow those of you who have your stuff tightly honed and you want to differentiate yourselves, to be able to go and say, look, I've got 3/4 of platinum behind me. I'm doing the good job. And again, we're not trying to call out anybody, but we are seeing the end businesses get punished. And sometimes even the businesses, and I get it, life is crazy. We're working to do more, both automation, agentic, et cetera. But we're really thinking through, is there anything else you guys are thinking about solving with these certs? Because I don't think we're thinking about that like scoring, but I've
Yeah.
never really thought about the cert idea before.
Me neither. I never thought about the cert because we do a lot of the work, most of it really. So I had just kind of assumed that like what is there to like teach people or what is there to, certify people as being knowledgeable. Because this has come up before when, internally people have suggested, hey, why don't we do like a kind of a Huntress user conference? And I was kind of always like, usually at a user conference, you're like showing examples of like, here's how you could use the platform and here's what you could do and all that. But I was like, ours is really just like you install it and it just goes. Like that's the point. So yeah, that's interesting.
Okay. Certs would help us, who does security right. A lot of you talked about scoring. As we're looking at human risk management, we try to use everything internally. Like you guys saw that we're hiring pretty quick right now. So the idea of having 20 new people that don't have two-factor on, actually not a crazy idea. That could have happened. We could have had users that just didn't have two-factor on certain apps and stuff like that. So we're trying to use this internally first to find out like, do we wreck the motivation of our own teammates? But I'm hearing you guys loud and clear. Some way to be able to motivate, give positive recognition, drive the right behaviors, but also have some sort of recognition, whether it's email signature, etc. I'm gonna think it through, especially make sure we're not just doing a corny like. Has anybody ever seen those like secure by semantic? And I always wonder like, what is semantic actually securing? Like, not picking on semantic, but like the websites, I don't get it. I just want to make sure we don't just like have Pokemon badges. And Mike just said collect cert badges. I want to make sure they stand for something and not just you got to catch them all. Um, okay, I'm gonna run with that. Was there anything else? So, Chris, you said you were gonna run down that auditing because I think Jessica said there was maybe something missing in the auditing, like certain rules aren't being put in our
Yeah,
audit
yeah, yeah.
logs.
Yeah, there's some actions that don't generate audit events.
I'll personally sign stuff. People you watch out what you give me your address, watch out what you get. I think somebody didn't expect that I just sent like some random stuff out of my house signed the last time somebody asked. So, be
I
careful.
got stuff that needs to go. I've been donating it, but that's a good idea. I'll just
I've got a
start
lot of
shipping
old
it to
school Huntress
product lab
swag.
listeners.
And people were like, "Oh, I want old school Hunter swag." And I was like, "Actually, this is like a ski jacket I wore a lot that smells like pits." But okay, I'm not joking. Oh gosh, I'm sorry, Bruce. I used socks. Oh, come on. Oh, okay. What else? Oh, not sure if this applies here, but when getting to notifications to the CRM alerting system, can they contain more info like the user so you don't have to always log into the console and review the alert? Andrew, if you've got thoughts on this, I think we have two or three things where people are asking now that they're dealing with bigger scale and they're like, not every alert means the same. We try to mean low means you can get to it when you need to, high means you better get to it today, and critical means you better get to it now. Um, I just want to throw out there that like I could use more insight in how to make your life easier on that end of what more info we could give. But that's really good feedback. I don't think I've heard that in a while. Chris, have you heard that like I mean stacking alerts, I think that was the edits that we showed earlier was supposed to stop getting like update, 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 and we're trying to reduce the amount of just like fatigue that we get you. That's
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So the stacking of the alerts was that, right? Because we would send an incident report and then we would later send another one that was an update, but the system had never been built out to support updates. And so the only way to send a report was to create a new thing. So there's a couple of things there that have to happen. One of them was the stuff we talked about in the straight out of the lab in terms of being able to identify when a report is kind of the initial report, when it's changed, what changed about it. Then that work has to then flow into the integrations that we have with things like PSA and email and all of that kind of stuff. so that instead of creating a new ticket in your PSA system or starting a new email thread, that we can kind of send an update to the one that we already started. And so that should, I think what they're talking about is stop stacking the alerts. So they won't get five alerts. They'll get one threaded with four updates. I think that's where we're going.
Oh, did I just see an OnlyFans comment here?
Yep, yep. Don't scroll back.
Goodness. I will say the content is safe for work. Your content filter probably won't like it, but there might be a slash Kyle Hanslow OnlyFans account out there. For those that know, random weird fact of the day. Um, Chris, I think we got most of the questions, dude. We had
I
like
think we got them all. I
15
don't see.
questions show up there at
I
last
mean, there
end.
was definitely some stuff that scrolled by in chat that we did not get to, but
Oh gosh, Hans Lovin. It's like Mick Lovin. Ugh. Oh my gosh, only hacks. Oh. All right. Um, Chris, I think this was a good. We went 20 minutes over. Over 200 of you are still hanging with us. I just generally appreciate, like, considering the whole year that we've been at it. Product Lab was something that Chris and I weren't sure if it was going to go beyond like maybe a quarter. The feedback you guys are actually giving us is it's shaping our roadmaps. The stuff that we get to share with you that we're actually changing is impactful. So my ask that I've done over and over is just please continue to bring your most diehard techs. We actually listen. We want to hear your feedback. And then sometimes we know what we need to build, but we don't know what to build first, or we don't know who to look at. So I just, while some companies make their advisory boards limited, this is the closest thing we have as a formal Huntress advisory board. So just thank you for being like a part of it, right? I probably won't get to talk to many of you guys for the rest of the, till the end of the year, but I just, from me and Chris to like you guys, thanks for like hanging with all of us and, just giving us your time because we know it's not cheap.
yep.
Cool, cool. Well, okay. On that note, Cody, Heather, Andrea, all you that made this event happen behind the scenes, yeah. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Hanukkah, all the good stuff that's coming up. I just hope everybody has a good one, regardless of where you're at, and I'll see you soon.
See you.
Bye.